As pointed out, we have the story of Martha and Mary. Now, as they went on their way, this is Jesus and the disciples. Jesus entered a certain village, and this village name was Bethany, where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks. So she came to Jesus and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." Can you hear that? But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." Amen. The story of Mary and Martha follows directly after the Good Samaritan story, and we really don't know for sure why Luke placed the story of the Good Samaritan and then the Mary and Martha story. But the only thing that we can surmise is that the Good Samaritan story deals with the great commandments: to love God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and spirit, and then to love your neighbor as yourself. Well, then he tells the story of the Good Samaritan, which helps us understand about loving our neighbor. And then we have the Mary Martha story, which then tells us about how we love God with all our strength, our mind, and our heart, and our soul. The focus then is our understanding of knowing how important it is to be in worship, in prayer with God. And so for us, to read into the story, we have to read into what it's all about. You see, Jesus enters with his disciples into the home of Martha. Martha and Mary are sisters, and they live in the town of Bethany. Now, Bethany is just on the other side of the Mount of Olives. Just on the other. So it's a very, very short walk from Jerusalem. It is a place where Jesus will meet on many other occasions. It's a place where he felt at home, a place where he could rest and recuperate from the busyness and the crowds and such, a place that he knew he was safe. For this is where he stayed during the Holy Week. So it was at this place, and Mary and Martha had a brother named Lazarus. Lazarus was the one who Jesus rose from the dead, and so now we know the importance and how special this family was to Jesus. I'm sure some of you have those places where you go and you just automatically always feel at home there. And I've always thought that when Jesus went to Lazarus and Martha and Mary's home, it was always a place where he could be himself. He could let his hair down. He could relax and be among friends. They could talk. They could visit, have conversation and food. And it sounds as though Martha was in charge of the food. As we enter the story, we have Martha, who you can imagine is in the kitchen, banging away at the pots, scrubbing away, and then under her breath, I'm sure he's saying, "Why would he just drop in on us? Jesus and all those 12. Now, I don't know about you, but if I ever bring somebody at home at our house, and it's maybe one person I said, "Hey, they're in town, why don't you stop over and eat?" If I don't talk to Janet beforehand, I know this goose is cooked. So, back in those days when there was no cell phone, no nothing, a person comes, and the Middle East, if you get to know them, they're all about hospitality. So they welcomed him. But I can imagine Martha, who was cooking in the kitchen, trying to stretch whatever she could to feed all of them, because that's what they do. The whole time she's banging in there and stirring things up, she's stirring things up inside. Here her sister, Mary, is sitting at Jesus' feet, looking up at his eyes, listening to what Jesus is saying, and taking in all that Jesus is doing and speaking that day. Like a disciple who's wanting to learn from his rabbi, just as Mary was there. Finally, Martha has enough, and she breaks out of the kitchen. I imagine she made a noise and said, "Jesus, do you realize what is happening here? While I'm in the kitchen, working my tail off, my sister is sitting here at your feet, and she should be helping me get ready to feed this whole army." I don't think it says that in the Bible, but that's how I would feel. And Jesus, I love this, because we have a Martha that goes to this church, and so we often say, Martha, Martha, Martha. Martha Burton. She takes it well. Martha, Martha, you're distracted by much, and you are worried by much. Your sister has chosen the better thing, for there is only one thing that really matters, and she has been chosen the better thing. Well, if I was Martha, I would have felt as though I was scolded. And if I was Martha, I would have gone back to the kitchen and then banged those pots a lot more. And when she went back to the kitchen, I imagine that there were 3 flies in that soup. The one was when Jesus said that you're worried. You know, worry and stress and anxiety is very much a part of our modern day life. We all know what that is, what worry and stress and anxiety, and that's what Martha was experiencing in the kitchen. And what Jesus was pointing out is that you are worried about too much. I just read, and you can Google this, that we as Americans take 20,000 tons of aspirin or of its many forms a year. 20,000 tons. Now that does not sound like a lot, but consider how much a tablet weighs, whether it's aspirin or Tylenol or whatever those other ones are. But what that amounts to is that on the average, as Americans, we take 225 tablets a year. That's 2/3 of a tablet a day, which means that there's probably 2/3 of you have a headache this morning, and one of you is saying, I wish you'd hurry up because I got to get some coffee because I've got this horrible headache from not having my caffeine yet this morning. But it says to us that as a nation, we are a nation that is under stress and worry, and the first thing we do in the sense that we have a lot of headaches because of what we are worrying and fretting about. When John Wesley began the United Methodist Church, and when he began preaching, the question was, where can I find a gracious and loving God? A generation before us was asking the question, how do I get to heaven? Our generation right now, this day and age, is asking, oh, how can I get through the day? That is how stressed and worried that we have become in this day and age. It's like the couple who have gone to bed and the wife wakes up her husband and says, I hear a noise. I hear a noise. I know there's got to be somebody downstairs. Go down and check out what it is. And husband wakes up and he says, for 20 years, I don't know how many times you woke me up because you thought you heard a noise, sent me downstairs, and it was nothing. But, honey, I really, it's this time. I really hear it this time. So the man says, all right, husband does. He gets his flashlight, he goes downstairs, goes to the dining room, and lo and behold, there's a man standing there, getting out their silver chest and pouring the silverware into his black bag. And the man says, hold it right there. I'm going to go get my wife because she's been expecting you for the last 20 years. We do worry an awful lot. And what Jesus is saying to Martha is that don't allow that worry to become a part of your life to the point that it distracts you from being and knowing and understanding the importance of being with God. So we have the fly of worry. We have also the fly of distraction. The fly of distraction is she is twirling around there. She's distracted by many things, as Jesus said. And we too are distracted. It just seems like we are pulled in so many directions. There are things that are saying to us that we have to buy this or follow this, we have to go there or go here, we need to do this or do that. And we feel, in a sense, distracted that we're pulled in so many directions that we don't even know where to go. When Jesus says to Martha, Martha, Mary has chosen the better thing. And what he was not saying that this is important, but what he was saying is that we need to find a way of balancing in our lives the work of our lives, the need to put a roof on our overhead, our food on the table, but also we need to balance that with spending time with God, reminding ourselves of the things that are important in life, and that's what I believe church is all about. You know, we need the Marthas in the church for us to succeed. We need every Martha. In fact, I wish that we could say that we have 100 Marthas in our church, because Marthas are the ones that get things done. They're the ones that make sure the church budget is met, and they're the ones that make sure that the building is taken care of. They're the ones that are down in the nursery bouncing the baby on their knee and making sure that is taken care of. Without the Marthas, we wouldn't be able to be the church. It's so important. This week, as I was dealing with the death of one of our members, and I myself was overwhelmed by all that needed to be done. It was the end of the week, and it was one of those times where you receive a phone call and you just never know. I made one phone call to Donna Cuvalier to ask about lunch after the funeral. Donna says, "Don't worry about it, Steve. We got it taken care of. I'll make a few calls and we'll do it." If we didn't have those Marthas in the church who were taking care of that, we wouldn't be able to free the Marys in the church to be able to do what they need to do. Be with those, to encourage those, to teach the classes, to pray with others. And so we need both. And what Jesus is saying is we also need both of them in our lives. To be able to balance the work as well as the worship. The third fly that is in there is resentment. Boy, what Martha says about Mary comes out with anger and resentment. Look at my sister who just sits there while I'm in the kitchen getting this meal ready all by myself. Resentment is like a cancer. Resentment is anger at somebody that sometimes you don't speak about or talk about, but it is inside you and you hold it and it begins to build and to begin to eat at you until it becomes like a cancer that eats away at the good in your life. Resentment can kill relationships. It divides families. Resentment is something that is held on for sometimes a generation. You don't know why you're mad at that side of the family, but you know you're supposed to be because after all, something happened. A month ago, I had a chance to sit down with my brother. We spent the night playing cribbage until 12 o'clock, and between the shuffles and the pegging, we had a time to talk about ourselves and our own relationships. You see, my brother is a genius. He never went to high school. From 8th grade, he went on to college. He jumped over me. I was the oldest in the family. But I was madder than heck at him. I was mad because then he became the star of the family. When I was to go to college, he went to Luther. I had to stay home and live at home because my folks had to make sure that Mark was taken care of. When I wanted a car, I had to be able to pay for it and then also pay for the insurance. And my folks always told me that because of me, their insurance had doubled in price. So every month I had to write a check to my folks. My brother, "Oh, Mark needs a car. You know, he's going to Luther. And so he needs to make sure that he has a way home. So we talked about those things, and I said, Mark, I really, at that time, it was hard for me to be around you. I resented you. Even when I turned my stuff in at school, the teachers, and I know they were not wanting to be cruel, but it hurt when I would turn my stuff in, and they would say, isn't that neat about your brother Mark? He's going on to college. And then they'd say, well, what happened to you? They thought maybe it was funny, but it really wasn't to me. But then as I talked to Mark about what I went through, he said, I envied you. When you were in the plays, I never got to be in the plays. When you played sports, I never had the opportunity to play sports. And when you went to prom, I couldn't even think about girls. So when we had this talk, we got out the resentment, the anger, that which had muddied our relationship for many years. And that's what resentment can do. And what Jesus is saying to us is that we need to get our priorities straight. And understand that there is really one thing, and that is to spend time with God. When we realize that when we can sit with the scriptures in our easy chair or lazy boy, then we understand what Mary was wanting. When we stop and listen to music, when we attend a Laura Story event and listen to the music of her story about how God has helped her in her life, we understand what Mary was looking for and wanting in her life. When we take time to meditate and to pray, to spend that quiet time with God, then we understand what Mary was desiring. It is that balance that we need in our lives. To have that split personality of being like Martha and serving and helping our neighbor, but being like Mary, realizing that we can't do that without refilling the well, without understanding what this is all about, and understanding that we can't do this alone. Let us pray. Gracious and holy God, we thank you that in the story of Mary and Martha, we are found that there's importance in our life to spend time with you, as well as the importance of doing things for others. So Lord, help us to be the church. We thank you for the Marthas and the Marys. We offer all that we do in the name of Christ, that you may inspire us all to make a difference in your name. Amen.